Hey, what up? It's Tampa Brad back at it again with law number 11 of the 48 Laws of Power. This law is learn to keep people dependent on you. And this law, once again, we're back to the topic of leverage. This law revolves around leverage, as many of them do. And this one specifically can be applied in a workplace scenario to great effect. Actually, I want to derail this and talk about a different book for just a second. It's the book Linchpin by Seth Godin. And in that book, Seth Godin, personally, I'm not a huge Seth Godin fan. I find his stuff a little too airy and not concrete, but I really like Linchpin because it resonated with me on a deep level. What it talks about is how you become an indispensable part of your company. What a linchpin physically is a pin in a machinery system that without it, the whole thing fails to function. That one pin has to be in place, and it's typically it's preventing two pieces from pulling apart, it holds them together or something like that. And without that piece, the system cannot function. It is just a useless pile of parts. So, what your task is, according to this law, in order to become a person of power, if you're gonna abide by this law, which I know you are, is to make yourself into what Seth Godin would call a linchpin. Someone in an organization or group of people or just scenario where people cannot do without you. They literally need you or need some function that you provide in order to go on living, okay? So what are some good examples of people being dependent on something? I would say that Apple is a great example of this. What Apple does is they create an ecosystem of products that all become interdependent and they grow a network effect, but that's a little bit of a different topic. But what they do is once a user gets into Apple products, they then are dependent on Apple software and firmware and further updates. And what that allows Apple to do is name their price. Once you get in the habit of using an Apple iPhone, I have an iPhone. I literally cannot figure out how to use an Android because of the difference in operating systems. That's a very simple, basic example that you can relate to as far as how Apple does a great job of keeping people dependent on them. It's why they're so successful. It's why they have so much pricing leverage and they can literally charge, crazy markups on their products. There are some other things like brand building that go into it as well, but leverage is absolutely critical to Apple's strategy, okay? So how does this apply in your life? What is the tangible brass tacks use of this law? Well, in my experience, it's creating one very, very simple way to execute this law is by becoming the so-called the person who's the life of the party, the person who is unashamed to be themselves when they're in a group setting, and people actually wind up really loving that. People wind up really appreciating the person who can just be themselves, lets other people just let loose around them, and they feel more comfortable around that person than they would even just a normal friend who maybe they have a deeper connection with. But because you're the person who carries the energy of the group or is a good leader or gets people to just have fun and let go and just be themselves, that gives you the leverage and you become that linchpin in your group setting, that you become that person. And I really love that I knew about that book, Linchpin by Seth Godin, because it's just such a perfect analogy. And the real important points here are, as with any other law, this law could go into being win-lose. It could go into, make other people dependent on you in a win-lose setting to where, if you can extort them for a raise, which you might be able to do, but that's a side topic. But for me, as I've said many times, that side of it doesn't appeal to me. I prefer win-win avenues, and the win-win avenue is that when you become an indispensable part of someone else's life, let's say you're an employee in a business, right? When you become the doer, the person that goes above and beyond and takes care of whatever it is that your business owner needs you to take care of, you are A, going to be very well compensated for that, and B, you're going to be really appreciated for it, and C, you're going to have a lot of opportunity because if another job opportunity comes up and maybe it pays more, you then have the leverage with your current business owner because they need you in that business because you've become such an important part of the business. They literally cannot imagine doing it without you. So that being said, The employment aspect is really the super key place to this. But even if you're, say, an independent service provider, if you're a business consultant, for example, and you just do such a bang up job and you really knock it out of the park for your clients, and they literally do everything you say, but then you provide so much value and you blow their minds with such off the wall business topics, even if they get to the point to where they don't necessarily need you, because they needed you to get to, they might not even realize it, one, and because they needed you to get to a certain level of success, they're gonna actually feel like they still need you, which is why a lot of business coaches and business consultants start with a client and they just continue with that client and continue to raise their fees up and up. Because on one level, you could say that they're teaching them to win at a bigger game as they go up. But also another side of it is that the business feels like they then need that person. They almost become like an employee of the company that they can't do without. And that business consultant is allowed and really facilitates growing with the business. And I love that because it's a win-win, right? If a business consultant keeps raising their fee and a business keeps hiring them, it would imply that the business is doing well enough to afford the raising the higher and higher fee. So this game of getting leverage on people and having people be dependent on you, and that's all it really is a game. That's how I see it personally. That's how I'd encourage you to look at it. It's not a really serious, it's not like a serious, if you don't do it, you're gonna live a miserable life. There are plenty of people who just do kind of just what they're told. They do their basic job and they get through and they enjoy their life and they have a great work-life balance and enjoy their life. And legitimately, I'm not saying that sarcastically, that's amazing. I mean, in some ways, maybe that's better than like what I do and work 18 hours a day. Maybe that's more sustainable, but I choose to do my path. Other people choose to do their path. This is not something, and these 48 laws of power in general are not something that is a requirement to implement in order to have a happy life. You can have a happy life without it, 110%, like literally no doubt in my mind. But if you want to have a 1%, or better yet, a 0.1% life where you are really, you leave a legacy, you are able to just achieve things that you and the people around you when you were kids would have dreamed of, but would have never actually been able to think was possible. If you want to just meet people who you never thought in a million years you'd be having lunch with, these laws are how you get there. Abiding by these principles and doing these things, actually taking the action, is how you get to the place where you want to be, but you just can't really necessarily imagine yourself there. I'm literally attempting to lay out the blueprint here for you, but you have to use it, okay? This video has been a complete waste of your time if you don't take action on it, all right? So your action this week is you need to identify one scenario in which you can become a linchpin, as Seth Godin would put it, and make other people come to you, okay? This could be in a relationship, this could be in employment. I would really encourage you to do this in your job, because once you're playing the game of trying to become as valuable as possible in your job, your employer's gonna notice, they're going to give you a tell. A tell comes from the game of poker, and a tell basically indicates what a person is thinking without them having to say it. When you start working towards becoming a linchpin and really killing it in your job and going above and beyond, your employer is going to do one of two things. They are either going to really appreciate it and double down on you, and that is a quality person. That is someone you want to double down with as well, and I would encourage you to. The other tell would be that they're going to get a little nervous and they're going to put you in your place. They're going to have a chat with you about not crossing lines in the business that are set up for good order and discipline. You don't need to cross your line, stay in your lane, little boy, do what you're told, and no issue. That, in my opinion, that is not someone that you want to double down on. And even outside of my opinion, I know for a fact that people like that are not expansion oriented, they're not growth oriented, and they're not invested in you getting the most out of your life. If you are invested in getting the most out of your life, don't be around people who are not. Go find people who are, because I promise you they exist. I'm out here for you, all right? If you have not already, subscribe to this YouTube channel. We're going back to just shooting on the weekends, so our shooting locations are gonna get a little better. This is a little preview. We're doing our finale vlog today. So if you've not seen the Daily Breads, they are amazing, phenomenal, would highly recommend. They're funny, and informative. That infotainment, little twist on content there. Love the seagulls. Also, if you have not yet, follow me on Instagram at Tampa Brad. There's a lot of really nuanced stuff there and a lot of fun shenanigans stuff because, you know, got to do it for the gram. So I thank you so much for watching. If you're getting value out of this video or any of the videos I put out, please leave a comment below. I really look forward to seeing you in the next vid. Thank you for your attention. Peace.